This is Mac OS Ken.
A lowered Apple target, upbeat news around Apple services, and a slew of software updates. It is Thursday, the 4th of April, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. I guess if I was going to miss a few days, I picked a good few days to miss. No new regulatory action, no new product announcements. There was one lower target for Apple shares, though it happened on the 1st of April, so who knows if they meant it. I'm kidding. They meant it. I got an email alert from TipRanks on Monday that said that Loop Capital analyst Ananda Barua had dropped his firm's rating on Apple from hold to, well, actually they dropped it to hold. From whence, we do not know. In fact, a piece from Apple 3.0 said he was maintaining a hold rating, so dropped it where it was. On the same day, that piece from Apple 3.0 and Apple Insider did have the analyst dropping his price target on the shares. Apple Insider ran parts of his note, though they seem to have gotten the new target wrong. Let's start with the parts he wrote. The problem is iPhone, in the analyst's estimation. Simply put, says Barua's note, iPhone unit shipments are simply too soft, owing to both organic demand but also to competition. Man, he makes it sound so simply. According to the report, the analyst thinks people may have been expecting too much from the March quarter, and that they are definitely expecting too much from the June quarter. iPhone ASPs are flattening in his estimation. The analyst argues that there is lower demand in China, and that iPhone sales overall are back to pre-COVID levels. Meanwhile, another Loop Capital analyst posted a different note claiming that Apple has significantly cut its orders for the iPhone 15 range. Those are said by the firm to have been reduced by between 7 and 8%, though if you had $1 for erroneous reports of iPhone cuts, you would have many dollars. I'm not saying he's wrong, I'm saying such reports often are. It's not all gloom and doom. Barua sees generative AI as a potential catalyst for Apple. Apple Vision Pro could also move the needle at some point. For now, though, he is forced to cut his 12-month price target on Apple shares. While Apple Insider says that is now at $175, both Apple 3.0 and TipRanks show the new price target at $170. It is gross to talk about tragic world events in business terms, but humans are gross. It is what we do. Taiwan was rocked by its biggest earthquake in 25 years on Wednesday, according to a piece from Bloomberg, while a report from Reuters says over 1,000 people suffered injuries and 42 people are missing. The confirmed number of deceased from the quake stands at an amazingly low 9 people. Of course, being a business site, Bloomberg turned its attention to how business in Taiwan might be affected, specifically Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC. While the contract chip maker for Apple and NVIDIA did evacuate staff from certain areas, TSMC indicated that there was no damage to its critical tools. Bloomberg said the firm's facilities were expected to resume production overnight last night into today. That said, TSMC's output could still be disrupted. Citing a note from Barclays, the report says any halt in production threatens to upset a process that can require unlimited seclusion in a vacuum for weeks on end, especially for sophisticated semiconductors. While worries persist around iPhone revenue, 2 positive notes this week on Apple services. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note from Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani. By his reckoning, App Store revenue grew 13% in the month of March, with continued growth across all categories. This brings the quarterly growth rate to 13%, which could indicate some potential upside to Apple's guidance for 11% services growth in the March quarter. The analyst points out that that's not as good as the 18% growth seen in the December quarter. Still, Compares had he and his bracing for App Store growth in the single digits, so really not bad. At least not yet. While compares get tougher in the June quarter, App Store growth last quarter in China and in gaming are seen as good signs. Summing up the note, Darianani says App Store numbers came in better than expected and increase our confidence that the services business can meet or exceed revenue growth guidance for the March quarter and maintain strength into the June quarter. Evercore has an outperform rating on Apple shares. The firm's price target on the shares is $220. Moving past the App Store, a piece from Counterpoint Research sees Apple services hitting a couple of milestones in the next year. According to a release from the firm, services will likely make up 1/4 of Apple's revenue in 2025. That's despite the Damoclean swords of legal and regulatory risks hanging over the company. In addition to that 25% mark, the press release from the firm says 2025 will also mark the year when services revenue crosses the $100 billion per year mark for the first time. Further, the company should breach the $400 billion revenue mark for the first time in 2024, supported by the growth of its hardware and services segments. Aware of recent legal and regulatory issues faced by Apple in the U.S. and the EU, Counterpoint Research Director Jeff Fieldhack is quoted in the press release saying, "We know there is risk, but it is early stages right now, so we are not expecting any impact to monetization of the iPhone installed base, at least not in the medium term." What's got the firm seriously excited around Apple services are whatever AI move Apple has planned at WWDC and the Cupertino company's bundled services offering, Apple One. The firm thinks that could become the single largest contributor to Apple services revenue. Of course, iPhone's not nothing. The communicator will continue to capture half of Apple's revenue and remain the centerpiece of Apple's ecosystem in the firm's estimation. While the firm thinks things do look troubling for iPhone in China, growth in emerging markets should help offset Apple's own personal China syndrome. News for you Apple card holders. First, the interest rate on your Apple savings account has gone down, and second, never mind about that email. Let's start with news of the savings accounts, which are suddenly less interesting. The piece from Apple Insider says as of yesterday, the 3rd of April, the annual percentage yield for Apple savings account users is 4.4%. That's down from its previous high of 4.5% set in January, marking the first time the rate on the account has dropped. The report says Apple savings account holders will get an email notifying them of that change. Okay, that email you should actually pay attention to. The one you can apparently ignore was sent out by mistake. According to a report from 9to5Mac, Apple spent Wednesday sending an email to Apple Card users informing them of a system error that occurred on Monday. According to Wednesday's email, due to a system error, the email notifying you that your Apple Card statement was available on the 1st of April incorrectly indicated that you are not enrolled in automatic scheduled payments. We apologize for any confusion this might have caused. As of the 1st of April, you were enrolled in automatic scheduled payments. Payments will continue to be processed per your payment preferences. The Big Bang Beta playlist is spinning up again. According to a few pieces from Mac Rumors, Apple on Tuesday released the first developer betas of iOS and iPadOS 17.5. Also out to developers were betas of macOS Sonoma 14.5, watchOS 10.5, tvOS 17.5, and visionOS 1.2. Grabbing headlines was the iOS beta. While iOS 17.4 brought a boatload of changes for Digital Markets Act compliance in the European Union, there is more DMA action in store. According to another piece from Mac Rumors, the iOS 17.5 beta introduces support for downloading apps from developer websites in the European Union, while iOS 17.4 allows app downloads outside of Apple's own App Store. those can only come through alternative app marketplaces, according to the report. From updates for the developers to updates for the office types, a piece from Cult of Mac says Apple on Tuesday updated Pages, Numbers, and Keynote for iPhone, iPad, and the Mac. Each was moved to version 14.0. The updates are said by the report to include improvements related to shared documents, preservation of file format, and full quality when adding high-efficiency image photos taken on iPhone or iPad, tweaks for iPad keyboards, and the ever-present additional stability and performance improvements. Now, confusingly, there was a new feature for visionOS 1.1 that hit on Tuesday. I say confusingly because, given the number of headlines, I assume spatial personas were part of the 1.2 beta. And yet, a piece from my download blog says this is a 1.1 feature that just happened to hit on the same day as that beta. As for what they are, the report says the spatial persona feature lets Vision Pro owners watch movies, play games, and collaborate on work as if they were in the same room. Said to be more immersive than past iterations, iDownload blog says others now see your virtual head, your hair no longer looks plastic, upper body and hands floating in front of them in 3D instead of a 2D tile. The feature also uses directional spatial audio to render people's voices in 3D space. Sounds like great news for the 8 of you who have an Apple Vision Pro and also know somebody else who has an Apple Vision Pro. Whether you're shooting for Apple Vision Pro today or stockpiling video for your eventual spatial computer, you may want to drop a very few bucks on a third-party app. A number of sites, including 9to5Mac, have written up an app called Spatialify. According to the report, while Apple's native camera app for iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max only shoots spatial video in 1080p at 30 frames per second, Spatialify lets you record in 4K at the same frame rate. Not many people own a Vision Pro, the piece points out, but if you're a fan of 3D video, then shooting some now could be good future-proofing against the time when less expensive Apple headsets go on sale. Spatialify is a $3 application. It is available now in the App Store. We'll wrap the day with news of hardware, new and old. On the news side, Apple's subsidiary Beats by Dre has entered another promotional tie-up. 9to5Mac says the company on Tuesday announced a new special edition of its Beats Fit Pro wireless earbuds. In partnership with the clothing brand Alo Yoga, the new Beats Alo Special Edition will be available later this week with an exclusive new finish. To the untrained eye, they look like a matte black pair of Beats Fit Pro, though the piece points out that there's an Alo logo on the right earbud. Both of the stoppers also sport a pearlized Beats logo. The Beats Alo Special Edition will run buyers the same $199 as a regular pair. They're available through Apple's online store, select Apple retail locations, and the Alo Yoga online store, starting today. And finally today, it was once literally the biggest thing in iPhones. Now a piece from Mac Rumors says Apple has put iPhone 6 Plus on its list of obsolete hardware. That means that Apple and its authorized service providers will offer no repairs nor other service for the device. Products move onto the obsolete list once they've been off the market for 7 years. Marking the device's history, Mac Rumor says Apple launched the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus in September of 2014, with key features including larger screens than previous models and Apple Pay support. Apple discontinued the iPhone 6 Plus in September of 2016, but the iPhone 6 remained available through resellers in select countries for a few more years, so it is not yet considered obsolete. Other Apple hardware is shuffling toward obsolescence. Vintage products are products Apple stopped selling more than 5 years ago, but less than 7. Apple and its authorized service providers are still required to support those, provided there are parts available to do so. Mac Rumor says the 4th generation iPad mini has landed on the vintage list, as have the product red versions of iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus. The devices remained available in other colors for longer, according to the report. Those other colors have yet to hit the vintage list. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.